What is up? We're back with another movie review. This time we're reviewing Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, starring Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis, and directed by George C. Wolfe. Now, Nick, let's get your opening thoughts as to what you thought about the movie.
I think first we have to touch on like the big one that everyone's like that unintentionally became like the film's like selling point, which was Chadwick Boseman, and then by extension, like I guess the acting in general. And opening thoughts, I think believe the hype on the acting. I think Chadwick does great. I think he lives up to it. I really liked Viola Davis as Ma Rainey. I think she was a lot of fun as the character. I guess real person technically. And I even also enjoyed like the supporting character bits. I think there's a lot of like great chemistry and like back and forth. This was I believe based on a play, so there's a lot of just like dialogue driven parts, and like a lot of them just like sitting around talking to each other. And there's a lot of great chemistry. I particularly liked Coleman Domingo as Cutler as the trombone player. I think there was a lot of nice back and forth, and I really, yeah, I think as a cast, I think it was just really good. I could see them getting like a SAG nomination for best ensemble, just because like there is such easy going chemistry between everyone, even like um, the kid who stutters, like Sylvester, like he even had his own like back and forth, and just overall great cast. I think um, Chadwick's amazing, Viola's amazing, and I think yeah, just believe the hype on the acting. That's became the film's main selling point, and I think on that front, like it's like it definitely like deliver on that end.
Yeah, I think from an acting standpoint, I agree with you. Uh, as far as the performances, I really like Chadwick and I really like Viola Davis's performance. I don't quite see what everyone else is saying about like clear cut, give them the Oscar. I have to be honest there. Would I be mad if either of them were nominated? No, I actually think it's kind of likely. But if you're telling me like, I don't even want to compare the performance, but as a performance, it's very good. I just feel like it's missing like one layer of substance that kind of pushes it over the top. Um, I agree. Coleman Domingo needs to be in more films. After seeing him in Euphoria, the special episode of Euphoria, especially, he just kills it. In this episode too. There's something about this dude just talking about like how life works that you just need to listen. Um, he needs to be in more roles like ASAP,
He's a
where
great mentor actor. Like
he's
To
amazing,
Miyagi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, like he could pull that. He needs to be in more roles like that because he's perfect at it.
amazing. Um, who else? Toledo, the guy who plays Toledo,
Mhm.
uh, Glenn Turman, and Michael Potts, who plays Slow Drag.
Right.
And yeah, you're right, Sylvester. They're all like awesome performances in their own right, um, and they all perfectly contribute to the story.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. It takes place in one day. It's basically Ma Rainey, being her usual self, being late, and just trying to get a record produced.
Hmm.
Um, let's talk about thematics. Thematically, what kind of hit you as the major themes of the film, and how did like how did that cross over to what you saw or thought the themes were, and how like you felt them and the impact of them?
I think I saw a lot of similarities between this and Spike Lee's The Five Bloods, just because both films kind of touched on like how does it feel like like the psychology of like being like a black person in America, the type of like being constantly told like you're like you're not worth anything, like you're lesser than, like how does that impact, like we saw that like manifest in oh god, what's Delroy Lindo's character in Bloods, and then here we see that a lot in several conversations between, or not necessarily between, but from both Rainey and from Levy, Boseman's character. Like you see them like really giving like 110%, like literally every second, just so they can like make a mark, make a dent, make it like some sort of impression like on the world, even though like by the end like Levy's obviously like um have, oh, this is spoilers, but I guess like overall like Levy like is obviously like struggling, and he kind of gets used at the end. And then like Ma Rainey, like she's like even though she's like still is like kind of the same person at the end, she too is sort of like exhausted and like fed up too. I think um that's what I took as kind of took away as like the main thing. I also saw like just like Toledo first monologue about how like the black person should be doing more for like the future generations, and then like Levy calls him out. He's like, well, what have you done type thing. I think there was also some interesting back and forth on like what can they do and what should they do type thing. I think that's what drove a lot of the film, and like to give it that like musician aspect of like you're beholden to a contract, you're beholden to a deal, you're beholden to like whoever's like sponsoring you type thing. Like it's like a 3 steps forward 2 steps back type thing, because you constantly have to like give and give.
Yeah, and I think it's a more relevant social theme even to today, and it's very applicable. Talking about Black people, frankly, being pushed down by society and being, behind in the race. Um, and it's how do you improve? And it's the fight of the generation now for the future of the next generation, right? And that's that whole conversation about how does one accomplish that? What is the best way of going about that? And you get all these different perspectives on it. I think that's what makes it really fascinating. And talking about that there is no clear answer, because if there was a clear answer, it would have been accomplished. And I think that's a really fascinating angle that they explore. I think they also explore how musicians are exploited, and by using Levy and Ma Rainey. Ma Rainey is someone who understands how you get, an artist gets exploited, and so she pushes back on that, right? She's using every bit. She knows her worth, but she's in the minority there, right? So many artists, especially Black artists, have gotten screwed over by the industry, and it shows that this has been since day one, and it still continues to today. With Chadwick, who's this really talented musician, but he doesn't understand the business and how cutthroat people are to make money.
Yeah, and like that was like just like it was just like a haunting shot, that like last one where you see his music getting played by like a white band. Like that was just like, I remember feeling like so bad at the end. I felt so like torn up, and I was like, this is like, I was like, this is awful. Like it's such a like it was both like the perfect way to end the film, but was also such like a haunting way to end the film. Like just to hammer home everything that it was like discussing.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't. There's some things about this film that kind of feel weird. I really like the opening 15 minutes when they're in the basement
Yeah.
and just talking. I think that's great character development. It really builds the relationship all these characters have to each other,
Mhm.
and it's just fun. But I find this film kind of meanders, and sometimes there's like 10-minute sequences where you kind of feel like you're losing steam and kind of waiting for the next thing to happen.
Right,
That
right.
would be one of my critiques. I felt there were times where I was like, all right, when's the next thing that's going to happen?
Right.
I don't know how else to describe it.
I feel like that in part comes from the fact that there's like a translation of a play, since like on stage you are stuck in like one position, and especially this type of like story, because like I don't know, something like Hamilton like jumps around to a lot of like settings and characters, but here it's like literally one building this thing takes place at. So it's a lot of it just talking and like rant, like things like what was it with Sylvester, like the wire like wasn't like was just randomly cut or whatever. It's just like I feel it was just like the whole nature of the story just had to keep it like just in that area. I can see what you mean by like just like especially I feel like even when Moss shows up, like even then, like I can recall a few moments where it's just like them talking, like there's that whole like subsection where she like refuses to sing until someone gets her a Coke, and like it's just like sort of like keeps like prolonging this recording session type thing.
Yeah, I think though that moment is interesting because that pushes forward on the theme of um, an artist taking back the power, right?
Right.
And how they only have the power until the record is released, right? Until it is on the tape. So she's like, I'm going to use every second of that, right?
Right.
Um, I think that was fascinating to me. just because, you know, it's not something I really think about with musicians all that much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you occasionally read how someone doesn't have the rights to their, I can't remember, their masters or whatever it's called for musicians.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you at first you think, oh, she's a diva, right? And then as the story starts to unfold and she starts to explain the reason for her actions, it all makes sense. And I really like that as a character arc.
Yeah. I think like, yeah, and that's why like just to go back to acting for a brief second, like I think Viola definitely secured a nomination, or well, I don't know, it depends. I guess it depends on like who else, what other movies get released in the next like 6 months before April, right? That's when the Oscars are, April, May.
Yeah, but I think the deadline's February for
February. Okay,
films.
so we have one more
End of
month.
February.
Yeah, we have like 2 more months to go of potential performances to go. But I think she definitely secured a nomination just because like she reminds me a lot of Christian Bale in Ford v Ferrari, and that this was a character that so thoroughly like believed in themselves and so thoroughly knew they were like, I'm like the best one in this room, and like that's that swagger, that confidence, that was like so entertaining to watch, and like um it was also like just different for Viola to like I think it was one of Viola's most different roles because like I've only seen her thus far in Suicide Squad as Amanda Waller, in Widows, and her characters they are a little similar, great performances but a little similar, and here she has this kind of like I don't know, just that swagger about Ma Rainey that was just so cool to watch, and she has that like charisma, and like she had the most power in the room. There was never a second in the film that she like dipped in power. She was always in. That was so cool to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did a really good job of costume design.
Mm-hmm.
The costuming for her kind of embodied that. But let's talk about the ending.
Okay.
So, kind of unexpectedly, at least to me, I haven't seen the play at all.
Right.
Levy stabs. Oh my gosh.
Toledo.
Is it Toledo?
Toledo, yeah, it's the piano player.
Yeah. He stabs Toledo at the end of the film. How did you feel about that moment in the story?
I don't know. It's because like I remember in being in the moment, being like really scared because like at that moment like because like Chadwick's previous two monologues, the first one about his origin story, the second one where he's like fighting Coleman Domingo, those were like real. Like I remember for me, like those were like really like just scary to watch to see him so like emotionally unhinged, and it wasn't like unhinged in like a crazy person type. It was like just so emotionally like there was so much built up inside of him, and I saw that, and I saw that same energy going into that last scene. I'm like, I don't like where this is going. He keeps like harassing him about he scuffed his shoe, and I was like, I don't really like where this is going because like I have a bad feeling about this. And then he stabbed him, and I remember just being like, what took me out of it at first was the reactions of Slow Drag and Cutler because they seemed way too calm for me that like their friend just got like murdered in front of their like Slow Drag doesn't even like they cut to Coleman Domingo, but they don't cut to Slow Drag's actor. And I remember like I don't know, I was like no one was freaking out in this scene. Like even like Levy was like emotionally distressed, which I'm like, okay, you don't have to freak out because like you're in your own head, but I'm like the other two are way too calm for the fact that a murder just occurred in front of them. I think there's also the fact that like we didn't see a definitive fallout to the murder. Like, do the cops show up? Do like the producers come down and they're like, oh crap, like someone just got killed? Um, I think that took me out a little. Although like in the moment, like in a way, just felt like this most like in a way somewhat appropriate of like the character of Levy, like during his fight with Coleman, like when he stuck out the knife, I wasn't expecting that. That scared me for sure. And so like when he like was kind of losing it, and like he'd been fed up, but he had this awful day, reliving memories, getting screwed over. Like in a ways, it kind of made sense, but I'll also say just the execution of the whole moment. There were just stuff that took me out. Just in particular, just the reactions of the other two musicians.
Yeah, I have to somewhat agree with you there because I understand the film's kind of been revving up to that moment, showing the more violent sides of Chadwick's character, Levy, and how he is very emotional and makes, bad decisions in states of like high emotional states.
Right.
Um, but I almost was like, is that, I don't know, there's something about the stabbing that felt like a play.
Mm,
Um, like a little something that dramatically
yeah.
works in a play but doesn't necessarily dramatically work in a movie.
Hmm.
Because I feel in a movie you need at least a little bit more of a sense of realism, if that makes any sense. And it's like, I know this dude's really mad because he realized that he just got screwed over, right? And that music essentially is going for nothing, and he knows they're going to use it.
Right.
And I understand his nice shoes that he just bought, his $11 shoes, got scuffed. Which, if you ask people who are big into shoes, if you scuff their shoes, they'll be pretty pissed.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm like, he stabs him for that. I'm like, it just felt a little unsatisfying to me.
Okay.
That that's how it at least came across to me, because I understand it's a tragedy of Levy's character, right? And how someone who's so hopeful and joyous
Hmm.
and talented can get screwed over by the industry, and how the industry can put these artists down
Right.
and take advantage of them. Um, I just don't know if as a culminating moment, that moment quite worked for me.
Right. I think again, like it is just I feel like part of it is the play structure. I don't want to like harp on like oh like this was always meant for play and like it wasn't a good translation because I think in retrospect I think it wasn't definitely some parts like I could see this getting like a best adapted screenplay nom just for like whatever like reason but like um I don't know I feel like I'm just like trying to like process like the lead up of moments to it because like he gets fired, he loses his music essentially, and then he like and the shoes like that like one good thing he kind of was like proud about in the beginning and like that gets messed up like just a little bit. um I think what would have helped again was just some sort of closure to that scene, like a like maybe it wasn't in the play but like if just a scene explaining like showing reactions or showing like again did the police show up, like what happens to Levy, because it just sort of like ends off on this like if like imagine if like Game of Thrones never addressed like the first time Jon Snow like died, like you're just like kind of left like oh well like what happens now type thing. Like I think some moment of closure would have helped bridge it a little together because I feel like the moment I think the moment did have some like merit in like how it like in how the series of events happened. I'll push back on that point, but I think it was just I think there just had to be I think the way it ended and just some of like the execution of the other parts. That's what like I think that's what I could see that scene becoming like a weird like way for some people like for the film to end.
Yeah, I actually I get why they don't show what happens afterwards, because the story is a personal story. And so I feel like the point of the story is not about the impact of the event as far as the rest of his life. The point is, you know, his flawed decision making in that moment. And as, the character passes away, Toledo passes away, it's Levy, Chadwick's character, coming to realization of everything that's happened. And so I get what they're going for, in that like the conceptual idea makes sense. I
Mhm.
just feel like in execution it doesn't quite work.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Is there anything else, moments you want to touch on in this
I
film?
How'd you feel about the whole like Levy's hitting on Ma's girl thing?
um it kind of felt like it was in Levy's, like kind of how Levy's character was.
Okay.
um I don't know how it necessarily, well, I get how it contributed to the story in a sense, because Ma doesn't like him already, and
Right.
him, she doesn't know that the two hooked up, but like that kind of relationship has Ma jealous and kind of uncomfortable. So that it adds tension in a sense. Um, so I think it's fine. I don't think it ultimately adds too much to the story, but I understand why they had it.
Okay. Because I know for me, like the girlfriend felt so like felt like an outline of a character that like I don't know, she did like for me like she didn't seem like upset that she was with mom, but she didn't seem like overjoyous either. Like she seemed pretty okay hooking up with Levy, and it was just kind of I was kind of like I was like I don't know. I feel like they could have pulled something like mind a little more from like that whole triangle of like interaction, but I don't know. I don't know. If anything, it was just it was a scene I guess where we got some really good back and forth between characters. I think the dialogue is like really strong in this piece, but I don't know. I thought that was like the one thing because like that would happen during Ma's whole Coca-Cola like episode, right? That's when it happened, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just like an interesting like B plot to have. Don't really know how I feel about it just yet. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. Um, yeah, and I guess if we want to, before we wrap up, just talk about Oscars because I feel like that's been attached to this film a lot before its release.
I'd say Chadwick, I would not be surprised if he got a nomination.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to see every film that comes out this year before I can really say
Yeah.
firmly if he should get one. I lean towards yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty great performance, but I don't see it as like oh, he's gonna win automatically. Because to be perfectly honest, I feel like
right
Delroy
now,
Lindo is better.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because right now he's up against his Bloods co-star and Lindo versus Boseman, and then
and Riz Ahmed and Sound of Metal
Sound of Metal.
is fantastic. I mean, I can't. We'll get around to that eventually, but that film needs to be seen by everyone. It's on Amazon Prime.
Right. That might be it. That might be the trio. That's gonna be an interesting trio because I have heard good things about Ahmed. I haven't seen the Sound of Metal just yet. I have to rewatch Bloods. I need I need to see Lindo's whole like monologues again because I feel like people like the hype I feel like of Lindo died down, especially since like everyone like knows like and is remembering Chadwick Boseman. So I feel like that's gonna like maybe push him ahead in the next few months. But I don't know. For right now, for me, he's my front runner, but it's only just because I have to see Sound of Metal, I have to rewatch Bloods. But I could definitely see that trio being the core ones like duking it out for the award next year.
Yeah. There's also, if you guys have been watching the Small Axe series, which I highly recommend, there's the first film in the film series is called Mangrove, and there's an actor, I can't remember the actor's name, who's the owner of the Mangrove, who is stellar in that role. So definitely worth checking out. It's going to be an interesting season. Let's wrap it up. Where does this rank in your list of 2020 films?
You go first because I haven't ranked it properly yet, so I'm just gonna give it a quick like look through. But you go first. You go first. I'm gonna try and figure it out.
Yeah, I'm going to say where it is right now. I'm going to be unpopular about it. I was expecting maybe a little bit of backlash, but I have it at 11 right now.
11. Wow, didn't even. Okay, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is Red, White, and Blue. It's a Small Axe film.
Small Axe. Okay.
It's the third one in their series of films.
Gotcha.
And it's my second favorite, if that makes sense. They're all directed by Steve McQueen. That one's ahead. I think that one will probably stay. It's close. Those two could flip. The question is, can it get in front of films like The Gentleman, the half of it? And maybe it could get ahead of Trial of the Chicago 7.
Okay.
So I think it can move up to maybe 7. I mean, if it's lucky 6, it just depends on how the film sits with me.
Okay.
Because I think that's something people don't realize. When you see a film right away, your reaction is one thing.
Yeah.
But I think a testament to the film is how it sits with you a month, 2 months later. Because, you remember certain films better.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little hesitant to give my ranking just because I literally saw it last night. But if I had to just like on the fly, it's in this like a mid top 10, like low top 10 like area. Like right now, I think what it's battling out against is Bloods, Bad Education, and Mank. Probably gonna fall underneath all three, but like I think like I need to rewatch Bloods, like I said, might even rewatch Mank, but like it's in the like mid to low tier of top tens. We'll see. I think the dialogue and the cast is what, and the costume design is what like elevates it for me. You know, I guess in a few weeks we'll when we do our recap of 2020, we'll find out where it exactly ends. But right now it's like hovering in the like yeah, that like lower 10 top 10 zone.
All right. Well, that wraps up this review of Mom Rainey's Black Bottom, starring Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis, and directed by, I'm going to remember his name. It's going to happen. George C. Wolfe. George
There
C.
you
Wolfe. I cheated. I'm not going to lie. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comment section down below what you thought, and like and subscribe to the video. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.